Our third and final objective when we're working with slope-intercept form is to write the equation from a table. We saw earlier how to write a slope-intercept form from a graph. We found the y-intercept on the y-axis, and we used our triangles to find the slope. Just like the name implies, slope-intercept form needs you to find the slope and you to find the intercept. So if we want to write it from a table, we can still find those two pieces of information. We can find the slope using whiskers. That's where I draw those little triangles on both sides of the graph, both sides of the table, I mean. And then the y-intercept is where x equals 0. If that row isn't in the table, we may have to do some work to find it, but most of the time we'll be able to see that. Let's start with slope for this table in number 1, and then we'll find the y-intercept, and we'll write our equation. We look at the change in the x. If we look at this first row and it's tough, we can always skip that. Going from 0 to 1, we're adding 1. From 1 to 2, we're adding 1. And 2 to 3, we're adding 1. I'm already going to tell you that this is a linear equation so that you know that first one's going to match as well, but the math would confirm that also. On the y side, we go from -1 to 2. That's kind of tricky, so maybe we look at going from 2 to 5 first. Well, that number gets bigger, so we're adding, and we would add 3 to go from 2 to 5. 5 to 8, we're adding 3 again. 8 to 11. And we can check with our calculator, -1 plus 3, it does get us 2. So we've found our slope. We need to write our slope as the change in y over the change in x. This is one of the biggest mistakes students will make is they put the x on top. We want to put the y on top here. It's going to be 3 over 1. This part goes on top. Y-intercept, that's going to be where x equals 0. So we're going to look at the x column. Here's 0. Our y-intercept is 2. So here we've found m. We've found b. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So m is going to be a 3. Again, we don't have to worry about that invisible 1. We can divide and get rid of it. 3x plus 2. So mx plus b. Let's go to the next example. We're going from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. You could always subtract if you're not sure what the change is. This is going up by 2 each time. I've already told you that these equations are linear, so we're not going to check every row. How about on the y side? We go from -3 to 0, 0 to +3, 3 to 6. Maybe the first row isn't obvious, but the other rows, we should see that we're going up by 3. When we write our slope, we want to make sure that the y goes on top. It's 3 over 2. Make sure this goes on top. The y-intercept, again, we're looking for where x equals 0, not where y equals 0. Our y-intercept is going to be -3. So when we finish writing our equation, we're going to have 3 halves x, 3 over 2. When we divide that, we would get 1.5. We don't like to use decimals for slope, so we're going to leave it as 3 over 2. We have our x. Then we would add or subtract b. Since b is a -3, we're going to say -3. We've got our equation. Last example. We go from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. These are going up by 1 each time. On the y side, we're going from 20 to 25. That's adding 5. 25 to 30. That's adding 5. So we're going to put that 5 on top, 1 on the bottom. There's our slope. Now we need to find the y-intercept, but I don't see where x equals 0 in this table. How can I find what x equals 0 would give us for y? Well, we can work backwards. If we subtract 1 from the x and we subtract 5 from the y, we can see what the pattern would have given us for the previous row. So 2 minus 1 would give us 1. We're still counting by ones there. And then 20 minus 5 would give us 15. This is still counting by 5s on the x side, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. We still haven't found 0 on the x yet, so we can go back one more. Here we have x is 0. We go back another 5 on the y side, and we have 10. Here we have found our y-intercept. It's going to be 10. So if that y-intercept isn't there, we have to work backwards to get there. Now that we've found our slope and our y-intercept, we can write our equation. mx plus b is slope times x plus the intercept. That's going to wrap it up for lesson 3. Make sure to complete these notes. Look in the unit folder for practice, maybe a Kahoot, maybe a lesson, and the progress check at the end. Thank you.